Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a 1984 text adventure game from Wait, that's not right. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a 2005 film directed by Garth Jennings. Wait, he gets a movie's a Mikey songy thingy? Why does he get a boom? What has he done?
Jack shit.
Other than Hitchhiker, the only other thing even worth mentioning was his 2007 Son of Rambo. But Hitchhiker is generally a film I would call a do-over, insofar that not everything seemed to go right, and this is the kind of film we're just stuck with. Yeah, I said stuck with. What I mean by this is Douglas Adams, aka British God, contributed to the screenplay for this greatly before his death in 2001. There will never be another screenplay that he personally adapted, nor will there ever be a film he gave more of himself to get off the ground. And yes, I understand that he wrote 6 episodes of the BBC show, technically, as they were based on the radio plays, and John Lloyd wrote at least one of those radio shows, but those weren't much other than direct retellings of the source material, which is halfway beside the point because my actual handy-dandy thesis for this film is thus: we needed to compare things and choose winners, be they sequel, reboot, prequel, or nyquil, as the point of art should not be to rank, but to disseminate joy and emotional support for those who may need it. Who said that? Oh, some dumbass. I think only a fool would be expecting me to fall over backward proclaiming the brilliance of a film that is simply too dang short and a mite toothless to warrant my usual fawning cacophony, and maybe because I'm coming off the high that the Star Wars episode instilled in me, but there's a lot of obvious and palpable joy to divine from this admittedly flawed film, and I think that's okay, because a lot of people clearly loved making this in this way that honestly reminded me of some early Monty Python stuff where they just don't quite have it together and they suck sometimes, but it's pretty amazing to watch at its best and fascinating at worst. At the least, given that Adams personally adapted his own book into a radio drama, then readapted that radio play into a television program, that was all one contiguous loopy-doo, and then he spent years writing his own personal movie adaptation, aka this one, all the way being totally upfront and happy with the fact that these adaptations of his own personal source material, which he wrote, sometimes contradict one another. Some of the biggest derivations from the source material were originated with Adams himself, as each adaptation of was something of a reinvention for him. Characters like Hama Kavula appear only in the film as a foil for Zaphod. I don't need to defend this, it's John Malkovich hamming it up like a hot pocket croissant crust. Just moving on from that. Upon its release, Empire magazine called the film very British in their review, and I can't think of a compliment more just and befitting of Douglas Adams than that. In fact, if you want to do something interesting without looking at the movie poster, imagine your dream cast for a Hitchhiker adaptation. Watching this again, I couldn't believe the cast that Jennings managed to assemble. Practically everyone went on to do bigger and better things. In particular order: Martin Freeman as Arthur Dent, Sam Rockwell as Zaphod Beeblebrox, Mos Def as Ford Prefect, Zooey Deschanel as Trisha, Bill Nighy as Starty Fart Blast. Starty Fart Blast? That wasn't even on purpose, that was an accident. That's what I really said, Starty Fart Blast. Bill Nighy as
Slotty Buttfast.
Alan Motherf***ing Rickman as clinically depressed robot Marvin, Dame Helen Mirren as Deep Thought, John Malkovich as Hama Kavula, and Stephen Fry as the guide. The film opens with a high-budget musical number featuring dancing and singing dolphins performing the movie's adaptation of the line, "So long and thanks for all the fish." From the get-go, very purposely, the film is telling you, this is not how you remember it from the book, but it's okay. This is going to be an adventure. Most ridiculous. And it is. It's not quite the adventure you remember from the book, the radio or television dramas. It's different. It's also slightly Americanized, which ultimately I think does create another layer of dissonance with the material, though the movie wouldn't have been made at all, certainly not at this budget, without Americanizing it a bit so the USA would pick up the check. Peculiar conundrum. Even upon announcing I was doing this film, which was on Twitter the only place to find out which film won the vote long before anyone else. That's a me plug. But seriously, follow that Twitter account, because I'm adorable. Lots of people immediately began to tell me they preferred the BBC television program to the film, which is fine because it's an awesome adaptation. But it's certainly not a hot sweep for me because I don't think there's even a contest between David Dixon and Mos Def for who brought the most to the character of Ford Prefect. Oh, is this fighting words? For a character based on an actual English car manufactured between the years of 1938 and 1961, in Douglas Adams' own words, Ford had simply mistaken the dominant life form on Earth for cars, specifically that one, though he chose the car that was nicely inconspicuous. That says a lot about Ford as a confused person maniacally crashing into every scene, much like the cars he thought were people, and while on Earth, looking entirely out of place at all times, as opposed to the BBC version where he's just kind of like,
hello, it's me.
And if I may place a nail in one seemingly innocuous and ultimately pointless coffin, this is worth pointing out because though it did not take me long to find people decrying that Mos Def, aka Dante Smith, was a person of color playing Mr. Prefect, and that it simply just doesn't make any sense realistically, ignoring the obviously overlooked aspect of the book being a space fantasy starring a two-headed alien and a savior of mankind being armed only with a towel, I will remind you this character right here, got his author-given namesake from this car, and kindly inform you that the original manufactured vehicle in 1936 only came in one color, and that color was black. Mos Def is the best performance in this movie. He does the absolute most with his character and goes out of his way to add dimension and nuance to someone that is there mostly to serve exposition to our clueless protagonist. He's worth going and watching the movie again just for his singular performance. But lucky for you, the performances are awesome from start to finish in this movie, and most have become the quintessential version of these characters in my mind. I mean, you're not going to beat Martin Freeman as Arthur Dent. It's funny how not a big deal, at least on this side of the pond, his casting was in the film originally because it was far before his global star-making turn on the BBC's glorious modern retelling of Sherlock. And yes, I'm aware he was also on The Office, thank you. Also, if you watch the Hobbit films and just imagine that Bilbo is like more Arthur Dent, all of his manic worrying and flailing about make a lot more sense. Just add a towel. Sam Rockwell, who at this point in his career was known really only for Galaxy Quest, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, and Matchstick Men, puts in a 2005 time capsule of a performance because, and this is true, his entire performance is a combination of Elvis and George W. Bush, which, for the galactic president, kind of makes a lot of sense when you think about it. And Zaphod is a character that is consistently translated differently to engender confusion in the audience. As a character, he has a huge following, so the difference in the text, the radio and television dramas, the computer game, and the film are a jumping off point for a lot of arguments. Is it
Zaphod Beeblebrox?
Zaphod Beeblebrox.
Cool, thanks for keeping that debate alive, movie. Depending on what you're watching or reading, he has anywhere from 2 to 4 arms, and depending on the situation, but he certainly has 2 heads, but in some verses, Jesus Christ, what the f***? No! No! No, 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 no. And in the Infocom game, his second head is obscured from view by a birdcage and a towel wrapped around it. Yeah, okay. Other home runs in this film adaptation? Considering that Sam Rockwell appeared back in the very first episode of Movies, Mikey spewing forth with delicious musings about the veritable chasms of subtle differences between smoking regular and menthol cigarettes, it seems only fitting to connect these episodes even more so because the work by Jem Hinson's Creature Shops, who did the Ninja Turtles, their work on the Vogons in this film is absolutely breathtaking. This race of bewilderingly docile, yet their entirely xenophobic universal view and rakish appearance are taken to 11 in this movie. I don't even have a follow-up. They just look rad as shit. Oh, and bonus points to Phil Simms.
But not that one.
For his work as one of the art directors on this film, because check out this res. He was the art director on Guardians of the Galaxy, The Martian, Age of Ultron, Captain America, Elizabeth, The Golden Age, which sucked! In fact, Hitchhiker was the first film he was an art director on. Yeah, the film could be longer. Hell, it could have been an HBO miniseries with the same cast and probably become one of the greatest adaptations of anything ever, but it wasn't. This is the film Douglas Adams tried so hard for so long to get off the ground, and without question, compromises and changes happened at every turn, but he wanted a film. He wanted a bit of a Cliff's Notes version of the story out there, hopefully reaching a wider audience, probably among them younger people who don't read good, who probably, on the whole, want a more streamlined, light and breezy version of the material starring manic pixie mermaid Chihuahua Cabra Zooey Deschanel. That's the Chihuahua version of the Chupacabra. It's a charming as hell film and one that's entirely worth revisiting.
Greasy
Resistance is useless.
Resistance is useless, guys, like my favorite thing. There's so many exceptionally well-crafted scenes in the film. Arthur and Ford are waiting among the klaxons for the airlock to blast them out into space, only to be dropped through the floor. Arthur and Ford is talking.
Yes.
Couches, the scene with the orchestra hits that goes on far, far longer than it ever should, and then keeps going all the way into space, pausing and destroying the Earth. Every scene with the Vogons. Every scene with the Vogons.
Resistance is useless.
Gargle
By a
blasters.
slice of lemon wrapped around a large gold brick.
The stop-motion yarn dimension, the set and costume design in the Humakavula scenes, the face water scene in the absolutely beautiful location they secured to shoot it in, and of course the falling whale scene, which I think is just perfect. Douglas Adams really quite enjoyed rebooting his own story into different mediums, and as he wanted to happen, each translation is just a little bit different than the other ones. You can choose a favorite, but you really don't have to. Isn't a story you enjoy told by the person you enjoy it from translated into different media? Shouldn't that be taken collectively instead of comparatively? This brings me back to where I started from. When we score and rank things, instead of just kind of, enjoying them, it creates dissonance between us and the entertainment and the artistry of it all. Sure, criticism is of course warranted and wanted, but I'm just saying don't criticize just to criticize. You can enjoy all the versions of this and it's fine. Let me put it a different way. I adore the book. Actually, I adore all the books for loads of different reasons, but even if it is my favorite version of the story, by a long shot, I don't really want to live in a world without the cheering crab from this movie. I mean, look how happy the little crab is. Look at him. Look at him. Look at him. Look at him. Also, it's really funny if you do this.
Can't feel that hardcore appeal that you're screaming. Maybe I'm dreaming. This ain't Christopher Williams still.
Plus, it's fun to watch, even if each of these actors isn't your favorite version of the characters. It's kind of just awesome to watch Mos Def, Martin Freeman, and Sam Rockwell.
So you along for the ride? Or am I just dropping you somewhere?
Normality, right. We can talk about normality till the cows come home.
What is normal?
What's home?
What are cows?
At the end of the day, this is just one more version of the story, one that Douglas Adams wanted to make, and they did their best to respect his wishes on that. Then this is a version of the story that puts a stronger focus on the story of a man twice down on his luck because both of his homes were destroyed. In the span of about 10 minutes, he lost his house and his planet. And this man is so terrified of danger and risk, despite it surrounding him all the time. But this very scared, non-committal man manages to meet the creator of Earth. I mean, he basically meets God in Slarty Bartfast form, which he only accomplishes because he's kind of a weenie about it. But if you're paying attention, Mr. God D. Blartfast said something very important to this entire film.
But I think that the chances of finding out what's actually going on are so absurdly remote that the only thing to do is to say, hang the sense of it and keep yourself busy. I'd much rather be happy than right any day.
Which is astonishing to hear God say that, but he reunites him and his friends on a planet exactly like the one he used to live on, right down to his house being rebuilt ever so perfectly. Commence Arthur Freak Out.
How many roads must a man walk down? My head is filled with questions, and I can assure you no answer to any one of them has ever brought me one iota of happiness.
I'd much rather be happy than right any day.
Rubbish, we don't want to be happy, we want to be famous.
Yeah.
And this is the most important moment in this film because Arthur becomes as
My
smart
sad little
as God.
blip of an existence that made me happy.
Given all the information that we've been given from this film, and he is certainly smarter than the mice/people that have been chasing their entire multi-million year spanning lives. Instead of trying to live their lives, they wasted them trying to find the answer to a question they didn't need. What is the ultimate truth of existence? And the answer is, who cares? I'd rather be happy. And this movie makes me happy as shit. And there's no surprise there, I did way too much and bit off way more than I could chew and made my life a living hell trying to edit this, but I hope you enjoyed it. So that's Hitchhiker done. I decided to talk about that story in every medium because I feel like they're all linked and we should just take them all as one cohesive whole instead of trying to pick favorites, but whatever. That's just my opinion, and I'm sure some people will disagree with it, and that's cool. I'm just giving my 2 cents to the internet. But I am very much excited to be back doing the show. Follow me on Twitter at MikeyFaves. case, please like and subscribe to the channel. You would not believe how helpful it is when you subscribe, because there's a lot of tools that YouTube has, and the more subscribers you have, the more access to these tools you get. And the silly childlike part of me just likes watching that number go up. And right now we're pretty close to 20,000, which is awesome, because we doubled our entire sub count in like a month. You guys are here for the voting for the next one, so let's go Jones, Janae, and Bird. Oh, that's gonna get ugly.